This video will be a brief introduction to the tile pattern project that we're going to do. So the goals of the project are to make a spreadsheet to kind of continue our spreadsheet skills, to produce tables and graphs to describe a pattern. And then we're going to try to describe a pattern using multiple representations, meaning table, equation, graph. And the underlying goal is to produce something that is kind of in a professional environment using word processing and spreadsheets and things like that. So everything is going to be electronic through the computer. So the first thing you're going to do is create your own tile pattern. So linear, exponential, or quadratic. And you're going to describe which type of relationship you made, linear, exponential, quadratic, and why. So things like I was consistently adding, so it's linear, or I was consistently multiplying, so it's exponential, and so on. I was adding a changing amount, so it's quadratic. As a quick note, consider yourself challenged to not default to linear. Try doing something, linear can be fine, but exponential and quadratic can be more interesting sometimes. So maybe don't just assume you're doing a linear pattern. Don't just go for the easiest one. So to kind of get started, there should be a document posted for you that looks kind of like this. It's just a blank page, tile pattern project report. You can put your name and your date. The first thing you might do is start making your pattern. You're going to do that through the computer in Google Docs. So you can do that by doing insert drawing. And you're going to create a new drawing. And there's this shapes menu. So you have lots of access to any kind of shapes you want. So you can have some fun and do some interesting ones. You can do smiley faces, hearts, lightning bolts, this kind of shape. So I'm going to choose this just as something to grab. So I can draw whatever size I want. Kind of keep them small because you're going to need a lot of them. You can change the fill color. I'm going to go for purple on the inside. And so I've got my first shape. So don't automatically assume you're starting with one. So if you click on it and do Control-C, you can do Control-V or Edit Paste, and you can start kind of moving them around. It lines them up for you pretty nicely if you want. So maybe my first figure has 3 of them in it. So this is my first figure, or my 0th figure. What I like to do now is grab these, and if you right-click, which is 2 fingers on a Chromebook, if you right-click, you can say group. So now this is 1 unit. If I click on it, I can move it around as 1 unit. And then your second figure, maybe I can take this entire group and copy it. So I've got something like this. And then maybe I want to double it. So maybe this is exponential. And I want to be creative, so I'm going to rotate it around like this so I can make it line up and look nice. So I'm going to paste it over here. So maybe my pattern is going to start doing something like this. And then I could grab this, and I could copy it, and I could move it over here. And I want to copy it twice so that it's still growing, and so I get a pattern that looks kind of like this, and so on. So you can imagine how you can start to generate kind of cool-looking patterns. So don't do this pattern for yours. I'm just showing you an example of how you can use this tool. Once you've got your pattern and you kind of like it, you can label it if you want. You could say this is figure 0. I got that by grabbing this text box. This is going to be figure 1. Oops. Text box and figure 1. And so on. And you can do figure 2. And you'll hit save and close. And you'll have this nice professional looking set of figures. Then if you wanted to make your table and your graph, because one of our goals was multiple representations, you can go to File and then New and then Spreadsheet. And it'll pop up a spreadsheet for you. And then once it's up, this is just a place where you can type your table. So the first thing I would do is label your columns once it's loaded. So this was figure, and this was count maybe, because how many blocks or figures there or items there were. So figure 0, I believe I had 3. Figure 1 had 6. And you just do this for your pattern. So whatever you keep going, however many you choose to do. Your graph, remember, if you click on your table and you select your whole table, you can do insert, chart, and that's how you start to get your scatter plot, and then you can copy them over to your document. I didn't want this column chart, so under chart type, I'm going to choose the scatter. Just kind of walking you through what the project's going to look like. You're going to want to go in your table, even if you only made 3 figures for your display, have your table extend a little bit farther to 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there, because it's not hard to keep the pattern going in the table. All right, once you copy these over to make your report look kind of nice, go back to the checklist. We've got a graph, we've got a table. Now you can start thinking about an equation, defining your X and Y variables. And just a quick note, that is just what you labeled your table here. X is the figure number and Y is the count. So you can say that. You need to say that whenever you write an equation. Then kind of going beyond, you're going to describe the 20th figure. So how many tiles are there? You got to figure that out. I would recommend probably using your equation, but to justify it, you're going to use at least 2 representations. So for example, you could plug 20 into your equation for X, and then maybe in your spreadsheet, you could take your pattern and continue it all the way down to row 20. And then that would be a way to just see the pattern unfold. So I could see it in my equation, I could see it in my table. That's what it means to use 2 representations. And then just a description, what does the 20th figure look like? You don't actually have to make it, because if you imagine with my doubling pattern, the 20th figure is going to be overwhelmingly massive. But I could at least describe what it would look like. It would have this many blocks. It would have a base that looks like this. I could try to describe it in words. So that in general is the project. Quick overview of what this project's going to look like.